85,000 Fukushima Leukemia Baby teeth radiation and public health project half-life strontium 90 deaths. Excess. Magano and Sherman, critically flawed if not deliberate mistruths versus Jimmy Carter at 3 Mile Island. This video is going to be about comparing people who are activists or ideologues, again, versus, again, people who just very calmly study things and find out how things work, see how things break, try to figure out ways to keep it from breaking again, and make useful contributions to society, again, versus activists who just want political power or get on TV. Jimmy Carter studied nuclear physics at Union College in New York and was trained as a nuclear engineer while in the Navy, and worked under Admiral Hyman Rickover as part of a team that helped dismantle a damaged Chalk River, Ontario nuclear reactor. So when he inspected 3 Mile Island, April of 1979, he then ordered the creation of a special commission to review the event, and they found fault with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission because it was their fault, because they were deliberately making sure that, too big to fail. Like a bank bailout. Basically, this is sort of like a previous video I did. If you're taking care of a little baby animal that's cute, and you're trying to determine whether or not it's okay to release it, you don't get to do the evaluation because you have a vested interest in the outcome. Nuclear power plants producing uranium and being used in breeder reactors to make nuclear bomb material. Might be a conflict of interest, NRC. Anyway, nothing really came of it except that the NRC got their nose rubbed in their own BS, and it was made very public. And then nothing useful happened because activists just started screaming, "No nuke, no nuke," instead of, let's replace the nuclear reactor up the street with one a little further away that isn't able to break down. See also system accident, or systemic complexity-induced accident. There's dozens of names for it, but basically this is the answer. Hammers don't break because they're too simple, but a simple pair of pliers can snap because there's one extra layer of complexity. Increasing the complexity of a system assists chaos in its way in. Or, the bigger the system, the easier it is to hack into, or it breaks on its own. Any sufficiently complicated system or technology is indistinguishable from magic, mostly because it does something wild and crazy without you asking it to, and then bursts into flames and blows you apart. Or my favorite one, anything automatic will fail automatically. You don't want automatic. See also the car that drives itself and the death toll. So anyway, we're going to contrast, yes, Jimmy Carter, silly Jimmy Carter, is more of a nuclear expert than all of you. Or he was. I don't know if he's around anymore. I hope he is. I don't think he's around right now. I haven't checked recently. Mandela effect. So anyway, here we go. We're going to contrast this with peer-reviewed studies by college students and experts, and meta-studies of those studies, and just recollecting the data and handing it blind to a bunch of students to have them do it, to double-check it, that have shown that cancer incidences, the incidence of cancer in the vicinity of nuclear power plants after they started operation decreases because you shut down the coal-fire plant or the trash burning machine or the oil burner, that's actually a thing, which actually puts out carcinogens. They're actually detectable carcinogens. What type of cancer was it? Was it lung cancer? Were people burning coal in their houses before they switched over to electric because electric finally got cheap enough? I lived in a house that had an oil burner stove. Electrical fires are less likely than fires in a wood stove or whatever, usually. But not always. Depends on who designs it. I know someone who's a chimney sweep. He absolutely hates these old burners because he says, yeah, not only do they have a higher incidence of killing you that way, they'll kill you through cancer or just carbon monoxide affecting your body to where your body just starts making cancers anyway because it's oxygen depraved. And yeah, but hey, I'm just throwing monkey poo at you. So here we go. Let's look at these studies that contradict that if you use a system that produces more energy per unit of toxicity or unit of pollution, nuclear power plants produce a ridiculously large amount of energy for the amount of danger they pose, if they're not designed badly or managed by idiots, Fukushima. So here we go. We'll contrast this with an increase that only appears for incidence of a specific cancer that might have nothing to do with it when choosing specific time periods, cherry picking, or while there's no trend in the overall numbers for that year, looking for incidence per year but not averaging it during the year, which is actually what you have to do so you don't fool yourself, and also ignoring the fact that people go in and out of an area years later. Yes, this is years afterwards, years after radiation levels are gone, because radiation levels do actually decrease. You know that, right? That's why they're called, referred to as half-life. Over a period of time, the radiation emitted by a material will be cut down by half. Also, the environment tends to water it down literally and figuratively. Or using different numbers of cities or different cities for the before and after categories. So you pick cities that had a high incidence of cancer, you didn't specify what type, for the after effect, downwinder, and then the before effect was upwind. Or you just choose the ones that had low incidence of cancer, and then when you're called on it, you're told that's not a real peer review, even though that's actually peer review. You look for obvious mistakes or deliberate deception. Or finding cities that have fewer deaths while there's more fallout being reported or more radiation exposure, and refusing to report on them, or reporting on them but spinning it as a higher death rate even per capita, even though it's actually a lower death rate per capita, by literally just lying and saying, oh, that was a mistake. Well, this is your peer review. Now resubmit it without the mistakes. No. It proves our point. We can use it in politics. Newt Gingrich might repeat it. Or whoever. Hillary. Or refusing to acknowledge there's no plausible mechanism by which a small amount of radiation, and I should point this out, a radiation level that had no effect on background, meaning it wasn't detectable unless you were deliberately looking for it hard, as in it contributed no radiation level after a mile away, or in some cases right outside the building. Refusing to acknowledge that, or that there's no mechanism by which that could possibly cause death. Cancers take a long time to start up, or even at least a year or two, or even the fun one of someone saying, well, this radiation occurrence this year caused a baby to be dead 2 years later from sudden infant death syndrome, which has nothing to do with it. But someone wanted it to do it so they could use it as a poster they could have on a stick shaking at someone while they scream no nukes with a really loud bullhorn while someone's trying to have a conversation at a city council meeting about funding health care. Yes, that happened. Activists don't care if you get anything done right. They just want you to do what they tell you. Neener, neener. So anyway, no, that's not supported by any of this. Go look up activist on YouTube and watch activists. I want you to look at any of them and say, that's rational and sane. That will accomplish something. Do it, I dare you. Next. And some studies, I'm going to note something here in a minute that's going to be annoying about this. Some of the studies by a specific group manufactured a trend out of random statistical variation and refused to admit that there was some variation in the statistics, statistical mean and average and statistical deviation, using incorrect definitions for words like seriously, or just including the wrong half-life number for various elements, including strontium-90, because strontium-90 had to be concentrated on for the same reason that you have to concentrate on barium if you're talking about chemtrails, even though barium doesn't do those things they talk about. Again, misidentifying what the thing does, misidentifying how to test for it, or just making new definitions out of words that don't exist. Saying triggered when you mean offended. You don't have post-traumatic stress syndrome, you're just easily annoyed. You're easily offended, so don't watch. the world. Next. And now the coup de grace. Making sure you publish all of these incorrect definitions, trends, cherry picking, and everything in predatory open access journal publishers that do not ever vet or review anything and will let you block peer reviews being posted in response, which defeats the purpose of calling it a peer review if you don't let the peers review it. Hi, I'm peer reviewing, block me. And then finally, all from a group that in a 25-year period of time has produced 27 medical journal articles only on the subject of nuclear reactors or weapons testing on health. A single subject group posting flawed studies through sources that will let them publish because nobody else will publish their stuff anymore because it's from two individuals who go by the name of Manango and Sherman. Only one scientist or professor of environmental and occupational medicine has said they produce solid scientific work that stands critical peer review, while numerous peer-reviewed scientific studies have been done ignoring them just to see if any of this works. And again, finding no correlation or causation, or just finding opposite results if you just do the testing. It's a sign that we have a lower cancer rate, not a higher cancer rate. Cancer rates are going through the roof. No. The number of cancer patients is increasing because the population's increasing, but the cancer rate is dropping. People weren't diagnosed with cancer. It was called consumption or something. Sometimes people, for social or cultural bias, would say the person only died of, quote, natural causes. They wouldn't say what they died from. He died an honorable death. He wasn't in agony. It's to comfort the living because the dead don't care. See also the obituaries for every one of your relatives and then find out from your family what they really died from. Some of the things they died from are absolutely tyrannically, torturously horrible ways to die. See also my complaint about people not wanting to immunize kids against cholera. I'll just stop right there. Next. I'm not going to go there. Next, it should also be mentioned that the bias of the group is overt, even though they call themselves Radiation and Public Health Project. But when you look it up, they're just an anti-nuke group, which is fine. I don't like nukes either. This is what I would do if I was president. I would say, I, President of the United States, declare that if any nuclear power plant has more than one reactor and they're all identical, and one of them breaks, you have to shut them all off and that's it. Game over. No more. Because at that point, it's the same thing as starting up a broken nuclear plant, which nobody sane would do. Well, we've got too much money in it. It's too big to fail, like the banking industry. It's shut down and cemented. Now would you like to comment? Well, we've got a lot of money invested. Confiscating your money. Would you like to say anything else? Would you like to go for triple jeopardy? No, we'll just sit here quietly. Okay, we'll give you your money back if you dismantle the bad part of the plant first. It'll take decades. Would you like to go to prison for 20 years or do this instead? We'll sit here and fix it. Thank you for fixing your screw up. Yeah, I'm not a nice person. If something fails to work and there's 4 more just like it, don't use them. Instead, decommission them, shut them down. There has to be a shutdown process. You have to have that. And then remove the material and put it into the next door neighbor nuclear plant that does not use the same design and does not have the same failure mode. Systemic accidents happen because of high complexity. Nuclear plants are inherently complex. But if they fail, you shouldn't assume it's not going to happen again. It will eventually happen again. Next. The bias of money is not relevant when it comes to atomic power, nor is the bias of emotion. And again, an expert walked into the building and was able to evaluate the situation and set up a commission to find out that the NRC was basically at fault for being lax in their enforcement, and still are, versus activists who never want this to go away and just want to be on Oprah. You decide. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. Don't take any wooden nukes.